President Trump and his advisors plan a defiant final last week in office. He's expected to travel to Texas tomorrow to highlight what he believes is one of his biggest accomplishments, the wall his administration built on part of the border with Mexico. Now, the president is also planning at least one more round of pardons. This, as senior Democrats say they'll move to impeach President Trump for the second time in just over a year, unless Vice President Mike Pence and the cabinet remove him using the 25th Amendment. Well, joining us now is our senior writer, Stephanie Baker. Stephanie, I have a million questions, but maybe let's start off with impeachment of the 25th Amendment. How likely is it that something happens on those fronts?
Well, it looks like they're pushing ahead with this resolution to calling on Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. And they're demanding an answer from him within 24 hours. And if they don't get an answer, and it's unlikely that they will, he's indicated that he does not think the 25th Amendment is the right way to go. They will then proceed with the article of impeachment, and that could get a vote as early as Wednesday. It has nearly a majority of representatives supporting it. So there's, no doubt that it would pass. I mean, I think the real question is what happens with the Senate, and it looks like they won't consider it until after Biden's inauguration. And I think the real problem is that Biden does not want this to interfere with his, first 100 days in office. There's a lot to consider: confirming his cabinet, getting additional stimulus passed. And the question is, will they take it up later after Trump has left office as a way of rebuking him and perhaps barring him from federal office in the future?
Stephanie, we have a story saying that we're expecting President Trump to be defiant in the next 9 days. What could he actually do?
Well, besides the pardons, which, is likely he will proceed with pardoning a whole range of people, possibly members of his family. And, let's not forget that there's been this talk of him pardoning himself. He could perhaps try to issue some executive orders, perhaps taking on these tech companies that have banned him from Twitter and from Facebook, possibly doing something on Section 230, this waiver social media companies have, against anything that they publish. Whether or not that would be effective enough to really, take on these social medias in any meaningful way is unclear. I think there's just real worry about the next 9 days and what his supporters might do. It's notable that when Twitter banned him from their platform, they said that they had already seen evidence on social media that there was another, riot potentially planned for January 17th. And I think there's also just concern how the inauguration will pan out and whether or not it will be peaceful. One would expect after last Wednesday's, mob attack on the Capitol that security will be extraordinarily tight. But it's a very tense situation over the next 9 days.
Stephanie, what are you looking out for? There are so many people have now actually resigned from President Trump's entourage. Who is he actually listening to?
Yeah, I mean, it's now down to a very sort of small circle of his advisors who are left. Mark Meadows, his chief of staff. He's looking at potentially an impeachment defense that does not include, the names that defended him during the last impeachment. It's been mentioned that, Rudy Giuliani would perhaps defend him. He does not have sort of, range of lawyers, set up to come to his defense. He is looking like a rather lonely, striking a bit of a lonely stance. He doesn't have a lot of people around him. Obviously, his family, Jared Kushner, and his daughter, Ivanka Trump. But, he does look isolated.